Resilience is actually a word that I hate because resilience means somebody has suffered. And most of my work is to document people who have suffered in war, suffered in famine, suffered in humanitarian crisis. People who have suffered at the hands in sexual violence, they've been injured, they've been tortured. So when I meet somebody who is resilient, it always saddens me because I know their story has pain. Because what I believe is that resilience is life's gift. Resilience is the gift we're given by life when we go through difficult times. Each one of us during our journey has little emotional ups and downs, has moments that build that resilience. But for people that have really suffered the pain, then their resilience is greater. And what does resilience mean? Well, for me, resilience means you can cope with challenges in a better way, but it also means you enjoy life more. So when people say to me with the work I do as a photographer, traveling, how do I connect with women in Angola? How do I connect with a family in the front line in Ukraine? How do I connect with a story in Cambodia of somebody who suffered under the Khmer Rouge? What connects us is not our pain or our suffering or our injuries, but our resilience. And time again, people have sat with me and they've looked in me in the eyes and they say, I see that you have the same story as me. So for me, resilience is the gift that I was given after I got injured myself. In Afghanistan, I had a bad day at the office. I was hit by an explosive device. I lost both my legs, my arm. But for me, that's not interesting. That's just something that happened one day. What's interesting is the next 46 days in intensive care, the year of 37 operations, the pains, the challenges, learning to walk again, because that is when I was given that gift of resilience. It's interesting because my injuries, my accident at work is often people's focus. But for me, it doesn't mean much. It was one day. It was something that happened and I move on. The reason why I don't like to focus too much on it is I was there by choice. I was doing my job. I chose to be in Afghanistan. It was of my own free will. And to talk about my story is to take away from the people that suffer from war every day through no choice of their own. About 2 months after I was injured, and just a few miles away from where I was injured, there was a young boy called Atollah walking to school in Kandahar. And he stepped on a landmine and he lost a leg and an arm. And when I returned to work about 18 months after my injury, I went and photographed him. And I remember crying as I was taking the photographs, thinking, why should a young boy on his way to work have to go through what I go through every day of my life? Because he was simply walking to school. And for me, when I talk about my story, I feel I am putting his story in the shadows, because his story is the important one. Because he had no choice. He was a young boy, a 7-year-old boy walking to school. So, my story, I got injured because of my work. I got injured because of my belief. And so nothing changed for me. I already felt this way before I got injured. That's why I was there. If anything, my injuries are a badge of honor that I fought for something I believe in. And when people say, why do you go back? Why do you continue your work? It's simple, because if my work means one child does not have to go through what I go through every day, does not have to feel the pain, the challenges, then that makes my work worthwhile. So that's why I don't like to talk too much about my story, because I was there by choice. There's two questions there. One, what makes a good, strong image, and what makes one ethical? For me, both of them have the same sense, that I want to feel an intimacy. I want to feel that there was a connection between the photographer and the person they're photographing. I actually less and less see myself as a photographer, but more as a storyteller. Because for me, what's important is stories. Recently, Elon Musk was being interviewed by Joe Rogan. And in that interview, Elon Musk said that he thought the great reason for the collapse of Western civilization was empathy. He said that empathy was the problem. Now, that for me was actually a rallying call. It was very positive for me to hear that, because in this time when it feels very challenging with the rise of the right, with extreme politics around the world, with wars, what Elon Musk was saying was that his great fear, the thing that's the greatest challenge to him, is stories.
Yes.
And so for me, that was saying, keep doing the work you do. So when I see a photograph for me to have meaning has to have a story. I have to be able to look at a photograph and feel a connection, an empathy, a narrative, some sense of story. Because as I say, the story is the important part, not how beautifully visual it is, how clever it is, the way it's set up, the lighting, the colors. No, it's the story. For me, it's not about a subject and me, it's about somebody I meet. Normally I have a simple rule that I eat with people first before I make photographs. We cook together, we share meals, we build a relationship, and then maybe, I create photographs. And then, I go back and sometimes document family for 10, 15 years. Because again, you will hear filmmakers, journalists, photographers, they will talk about exhibitions and say, the story I did, or the story's finished. No, the story's not finished, we left it. The story continues. For those families living in a refugee camp in the Bekaa Valley, for living in a displacement camp in Uganda, those families, the story doesn't stop when we leave. So we have to respect it and keep going back. And it's been very interesting because people like to see a family, and maybe a magazine or a newspaper will say, well, we've already done the story. But for the family and for actually viewers, they see the children grow, they see the changes. Sometimes they see no changes, because sometimes the fact that a family's life does not change is the story. I honestly don't know if there is increased violence. I've spent my life, or at least 25, 30 years around war zones. I think what's different now is the visibility and the way that we see them. So when I get out of bed, I've probably already looked at my phone and seen 10 horrible stories on Instagram, 10 wars. I've seen so much all day. We're bombarded by this. When I was a child, I used to watch the news once in the evening with my parents. And I had a choice, either go to your bedroom or you watch the news. And I would sit and watch the news, and you'd have a few stories on there. Now, 24/7, we are seeing stories from around the world. I think that's good. I think it's good that we're aware, but I also think people have now become overwhelmed, oversaturated, and that makes people turn away because they feel they can't cope. So I don't know statistically, are there more wars now than there were 50 years ago, 100 years ago? I have no idea. I don't think it matters. The reality is, wars have been going on forever, and wars we often don't see. For example, DR Congo, most people don't realize that post-World War II, more people have died in that conflict than in any other conflict, but most people were never aware of it. Now you'd be seeing it every moment on your social media. So I think it's not that the world's got worse, I think we're more aware of it. I think that's a good thing, but we have to avoid being overwhelmed. Because when you're overwhelmed, you don't act. And we know that there are politicians in the world that thrive on chaos, that thrive on, as Steve Bannon called it, flooding the zone, putting so much information out that people don't act. So my advice always is to try and focus on the things you can control each day. When I went through my own recovery, there was a moment, maybe 3 months after I was injured, where I got very depressed because I kept thinking, I can't do this, I can't do this. And then I decided one day never to think like that again. That each day I would say to myself, don't think about the things you can't control, but focus on what you can and be the very best at that. Now, if I was to ask most people, what's the thing that bothers you the most? What is the thing that you find most challenging? Most people will reply about something they have no control over. They will tell me it's to do with politics in America, it's the war in Gaza, it's what's happening in Ukraine, it's Brexit, it's COVID. All these things we have no control over. Now, when that's all you think about, you miss the opportunities each day. Those things should be on the periphery of our vision. We should think about them each day. They should make us aware, but they should not be the thing in front of us. So for me, I have my own organization. We work, for example, in Ukraine with ambulances on the front lines. We do evacuations, medical care. Every single day of my life, I wish I could wake up and stop the war in Ukraine. I wish I could stop my friends, colleagues, people I know dying. It's the most unjust and violent abuse of Ukraine by Russia. But I can't stop it. So if I'm overwhelmed by it, I become useless. Instead, I wake up each day and I say to my team, okay, what can we do today? Can we get a new ambulance? Can we write another letter? Can we do this? Can we do this? So this is my advice to people, is being overwhelmed is exactly what the people who control these wars want you to feel. Because when you're overwhelmed, you're inactive. So try and stay focused on what you can do each day. I've had 25 years of people not listening. I've got used to it. That's again, it's not my problem in the sense of I have to focus on my work. I can't decide who listens to it, who acts on it. Because again, yes, there have been times when you do stories and you've risked your life and you've met amazing people and you come back and then nobody reads it, nobody sees it. It's frustrating, but again, I can't let that affect what I do. I have a burning house theory. My burning house theory is that if somebody's walking down the street and they see a house on fire, and out of the top window, they see somebody lean out and start screaming, say, help me, save me. Now, I believe 99% of people will try and save that person. They will not turn their back and walk away. They will not say, are you black? Are you white? Are you Christian? Are you Muslim? They will not say, are you a refugee? Are you gay? Are you straight? They will not ask these questions. Their instinct will be to save the person in the burning house. My job, the job of journalists, storytellers, filmmakers, photographers, is to make people understand that there's somebody fleeing a war, somebody stuck in a frontline area, they're that person in that burning house, and we should do all we can to help them. Because I believe most people want to do that. I wish there was a photograph I could take that I could put on a wall and that everybody suddenly would look at it and go, oh my God, I never realized war was so terrible, we should stop it. It won't happen. But I do believe this. I don't think my work can change the world. But I do believe my stories and my work could influence the one person that can change the world. So that's all I'm trying to do. If one person sees the work and they change, they do something, then that's enough. That's simple. Most people refer to me as a war photographer. And actually I say, look at my work, there is no war. All I photograph is love. And my work is documenting love. And so what I would say is that, yeah, people say you go to the worst places, you see the worst in humanity, and actually I don't. Yes, I hear those stories, I see the impact of some evil people, but actually what I find in a refugee camp, in a war zone, wherever, I see families, I find the bond, I see a grandmother brushing granddaughter's hair, mother feeding her baby, a father doing lessons with his kids on the floor. I see love, and so that's always my focus. And that's why I believe that humanity at its best is incredible, and humanity is about sharing community and love. And at the moment we're going through a very tumultuous time in the world, but believe in humanity and believe in love.